All right, guys. Well, as you may or may not know, I've gone back once again to what is turning out to be my favorite tactic, and probably all of Football Managers, this 3 at the back and free 3 at the front tactic. Let's go take a look at this here really quick. I know I've done videos on this in the past. We'll look at this once again, though. It's pretty simple, right? We have a balanced mentality. We have 3 players playing center back, 1, 2, 3 in a row. You got 2 wing backs on the side, and then you have nothing but attack, 2 segundo volantes, and then 3 shadow strikers up front. What happens basically with this tactic is you need to have wingbacks here on the side. Wingbacks, it's hard to find good ones. Usually what I'll do is I'll take a fullback and tell him to start training at this position. You can take wingers as well and have them play down here, though you'll have your best luck with guys who like to be defensive wingers or guys who will play down here, you know, sort of on this wing. It's another kind of rare position to find, right? Wingbacks that are really, really good quality are kind of rare in Football Manager overall. But the way that this works, you need to have these guys on the side to protect against teams that will attack you with wingers, because you only have 3 in the back, you don't have 4. And so these guys will provide 2 other positions to help back on defense. And then, of course, your sweeper keeper, because he's on support, will come up front and will help with the ball-playing defenders. Everybody else is basically just attack, right? And the way that this works is you get... one of these shadow strikers usually will be able to spot passes that he can throw forward for maybe the faster of the 3 guys who's moving into forward positions, or sometimes to one of the segundo volantes coming in behind him. That's the way that this tactic works, right? And you can just basically sit up front and wait for guys to move into position and get behind the defense, and you get a lot of one-on-ones with the keeper, right? It's pretty impressive, and it works pretty well. There's a lot of sort of overlapping that goes on, but not too much of it, right? Because you have to have these wingbacks ready to go back, right? It's fairly high tempo, but it's not too bad. It is a counter press tactic, but it doesn't require full out intensity. It's sort of a high level of intensity in the tactic. And because you're playing balanced, right, you're not necessarily trying to like force the game on the opposition. That's the reason why I like this tactic so much. The reason why is because like your team will wait a little bit and look for a good pass instead of like just lumping the ball forward all the time. There's all sorts of different things that will happen as well. So if you look here, when we look at the back, we do have a high press and a standard defensive line. And what that allows us to do is it means that, you know, your back and your forward, it's kind of pushed together, but not too much, right? What you get a lot of out of this is you'll get a lot of forward balls played by defenders looking for one of the 3 shadow strikers moving forward, again, to get right in behind the defense, which is pretty cool. It results in some pretty interesting things that happen. So if we go back here and we take a look at that most recent match, we can see some of the reasons why this was successful. There were only 318 people there. It's because, you know, of sort of the way that things were. We'll just click on watch goals and we'll take a look at these sort of one by one and see if this allows me to pause it a little bit here. So you can see this one up front. So Ian Gu is actually one of the shadow strikers. He gets the ball in midfield and knocks that forward directly for the man moving. So you can see right here is Ian Gu with it. And as soon as he touches the ball there, 1 or 2 of the shadow strikers are going to move forward. And there goes 1, 2. So Kim Sung-min is 1. Ki Sung-young, who I think is a segundo volante, is another one. There's Palasevich, who's a little bit too slow to playing this tactic. And you can see Kim Sung-min is way behind the defense and he's wide open. Right, so there is the first one. Now this is going to be a corner. We don't really care too much about this. Right, that's a pretty easy goal for us to score. Here we go with it again. Lee Han-bum is one of the 3 men in the back. He's one of the central defenders, and he passes once forward over to Jung Se-jung, who I think is a segundo volante, if I remember right. And then he just moves this ball forward, and you can see that it's like a total race to the back. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 different guys who are moving forward and trying to get into attacking positions, and he just chooses one or the other. This ends up being sort of a shot from range. It's by Jong Hyun-chol, who I think is one of the segundo volantes. And then here's the last goal, which I think is sort of the best one to look at. So ends up with Kim Sung-min, who I think at this time is playing a shadow striker. I can't remember. and he finds Ian-gyu, who has this beautiful pass. And this is the thing that you really have to look for, right? You can see the defense is lined up like this. The thing is that the defense is looking for some sort of striker who's going to be playing like out forward there, but we don't have that. There's no striker at all in the formation. And so Ian-gyu is going to time his pass perfectly as he looks for Oh Sang-jin here. He times it perfectly so that Oh Sang-jin is onside, and he gets behind the defense. And then it's easy. Then it's just a tapping because he's one-on-one with the keeper. That's the way that this tactic works, right? So that's basically like the nuts and bolts of this, right? I'll tell you what, when I created this tactic, I didn't spend a whole lot of time like doing a lot of deep research into things like... I didn't want to do a whole bunch of research into like any sort of tricks or anything like that. What I really wanted to do is I wanted to look at what other people were doing with sort of strikerless tactics and with 3 at the back tactics, and just sort of combine them like that. I looked into sort of what was going on here on the side, and really what's happened. I know a lot of people who tell you about tactics, they want you to try to figure out what exactly you want to do first and then sort of make it work here. I would actually recommend doing the opposite, like find something that people do that is helpful and is successful, and then try to figure out like going backwards. How did they do that? How did that work? That's kind of where this comes from, right? So I figured out that most people in the back use 3 ball-playing defenders, right? And that if you do that with a sweeper keeper on support and you have, normal press or even a high press, it will help out. It'll make it so that you're kind of sandwiched a little bit more in midfield. You have more completed passes. And if you combine that with these 3 shadow strikers at the front, as I've learned from experimentation, all of a sudden you get all of these runs that are just perfect and you're like never offside. So basically that's the way that it works. And that's the reason why we dominated so much. Talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.